What is up, geeks of YouTube? Damien here, and welcome to our fantasy life. Today, I wanted to talk about a lot of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 Game Informer exclusives. So, all this month, Game Informer has been doing a month-long exclusive reveal for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 for Nintendo Switch. And for anyone interested in the game, there's been tons and tons of content revealed to get us hyped about Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, or MUA 3, which I refuse to call it MUA 3, so we got to come up with a better acronym there. We talked a little bit about this in another video, but I wanted to do a deep dive on some of the more interesting content that's been revealed so far because there is so much coming out. Now, the game's storyline has been written by Mark Sumerak, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He was also responsible for another Marvel game which I play called Marvel Future Fight. Future Fight is a mobile only game, which I'll actually talk a little bit more about in a minute. Given the quality of the writing that I've seen so far in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and given the quality of the writing in Future Fight, especially that trademark Marvel humor, I'm really optimistic that the writing in Ultimate Alliance 3 will be top notch and that we're actually going to get a pretty decent storyline. The storylines for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2 were pretty good. They weren't anything to write home about, but Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 especially was actually pretty well done. So given that they are bringing in Mark Sumerak, who has already got an established track record of good writing, and then based on what we've seen in the trailers so far, everything's looking pretty solid. Let's talk for a minute about the characters. One thing I've noticed is that most of the characters seem to take inspiration more from their movie versions than their comic book versions. This makes a lot of sense, especially after Endgame. Marvel's likely trying to capitalize on the success of the MCU and get a bunch of new fans on board on the video game side to keep that experience going. Plus, now with the Switch approaching something like 40 million units, there's a whole lot of kids and a whole lot of kids of all ages out there snapping up any content. And those new fans are probably more familiar with the big screen Avengers than with the comic book Avengers, at least these days. The Guardians of the Galaxy in particular seem to take a lot of inspiration from their film counterparts. Rocket Raccoon sounds a lot more like Bradley Cooper than his original British comic book version. Nebula sounds and even looks like Karen Gillan, and Drax and Star-Lord look like their film version. This makes a lot of sense given that the Guardians of the Galaxy films were super popular, and I don't think a lot of people knew the Guardians of the Galaxy from the comic books. The only change that I noticed is that Gamora's white armored costume looks more like her 2013 comic book redesign, what they called her space armor, and Thanos and the Black Order look very much like their comic book versions. Lastly, some of the characters seem to be kind of a mix of the film and comic versions. Like Scarlet Witch seems to have a little bit of the elements of both. Black Panther seems to have elements of both. Now, something I was excited to see, speaking of comic-inspired looks, was the inclusion of the X-Men. Wolverine, Nightcrawler, and Storm are all very welcome additions, and they look very much like their comic book versions. I would have loved to see Jean Grey, Cyclops, or maybe even some deeper X-Men cuts like Magic or Cable make some appearances. I don't think the full character roster has been released yet based on what we saw in Game Informer and the fact that they're still releasing some characters. Now, Game Informer was given the option to pick which characters they wanted to reveal exclusively, and they selected Hawkeye. So I'm guessing that there are some major characters that haven't quite been revealed yet. So we'll see how that goes. There's also always the possibility of some DLC, depending on how well the game sells, especially with Marvel and Fox now having worked out some of their issues there. Now, with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 being on a single platform, it helps avoid some of the problems that previous games had. So, like for example, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2, every platform the game was released on came with its own exclusive characters that didn't always make it to the other platforms because you figure this was in a time that was kind of before DLC and things like that. I played Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2 on the PS3, and there were characters that just weren't available on that version that I would have loved to play. My guess is that we'll see more staple characters revealed as we get closer to launch, and because Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 is being pitched as a Switch exclusive, that they are going to go all in on their character roster here. As an example, Crystal has been revealed, but none of the other Inhumans or Fantastic Four characters, which would include Doom and Silver Surfer, among some others. We would, with Crystal, we would likely see Black Bolt or Medusa. I don't know why those characters haven't been revealed yet, but it would make sense for characters like that to be revealed later. One thing that jumped out at me was that the character roster seems like it's focused way more on new and more recognizable heroes, which totally makes sense. There's been a big focus on these recent reveals of Miss Marvel, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and Spider-Gwen. All of these are super recent characters that were featured in a major motion picture, of course, in Into the Spider-Verse. So it makes sense that Marvel would want to focus on these characters that are going to get the most attention. Also, all of the top MCU Avengers also make an appearance. Black Panther, Doctor Strange, of course, Iron Man, Black Widow, Captain America, all the big marquee heroes are making an appearance here, which again totally makes sense. They want to put as many eyeballs as they can on this. I know Marvel has been kind of all in on saying that bringing Marvel Ultimate Alliance to the Switch has been a really, really big move for them and that they're excited about the future of the franchise. So it makes sense that they would want it to be super strong out of the gate by focusing on heroes that players recognize and that would make them want to buy the game. So yeah, all in all, I'm happy with the roster so far. We've got some really, really cool characters. From what we've seen of the gameplay reveals, all the characters look like they have really cool moves. Even Groot, Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, they all look like really cool. Scarlet Witch had some really cool moves. Wolverine seems like he's got some just devastating effects. So I'm really excited about the character roster. The only thing, like I said, I really love to see some more of the X-Men. Jean Grey, X-23, Cyclops, Magic, Psylocke, maybe Colossus. I'd love to see some heroes that were playable in previous Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, like Silver Surfer. He was kind of my main in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1, and he was also kind of my main in Marvel Heroes for a long time, which also brings me to another point. Speaking of Marvel heroes, up until now, I'd been kind of thinking about Ultimate Alliance 3 as a spiritual successor to Marvel Heroes Omega for the PC, which was more of a Diablo style action RPG. But it actually seems like Ultimate Alliance 3 is taking a lot of inspiration from Marvel Future Fight, which I mentioned at the start of this video. One thing that seems directly lifted from that game is how team bonuses work. So in Future Fight, your team can have multiple team bonuses if they qualify for them. So for example, if your team is X-23, Wolverine, and Captain America, that gives you 5 different team bonuses. Now, I don't remember exactly what they all are, but those team bonuses do stack, which it seems like is the case in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Each character can qualify for multiple different team bonuses, and those can stack depending on how you build your team. I really like this approach because, let's say, for example, you love playing as Captain America, and Captain America only gets a team bonus with other Avengers. Well, that kind of limits you on how you can build your teams, but if Captain America gets a bonus with Wolverine, or he gets maybe like a leadership bonus with Cyclops if he's revealed, that does sort of give you more flexibility in how you can build your team, and it lets you put your favorite characters on your team without necessarily being locked out of getting any team bonuses. So I really like that more flexible approach. I'm really interested to see how they use it here because in Marvel Future Fight, some of those team bonuses are actually almost essential. So it kind of negates the purpose of letting you have that team flexibility when some of the team bonuses are so much better than other bonuses. So I'd like to see how it works in game, and I'd like to see a little bit more revealed about that. The other thing that feels like it's been lifted from Marvel Future Fight, but was also sort of an influence in Marvel Heroes, is ISO 8. ISO 8 in Future Fight is one of the key components of the game. It's used in upgrading and enhancing your characters, as it also seems to be in Ultimate Alliance. And again, we don't know how deep of the integration is going to be, but it seems like they're really focusing on that. ISO 8 has featured very prominently in the comics, so I'm not surprised that they're including it here. It is kind of one of the core staples of the comics universe, even though it hasn't really been brought into play in the cinematic universe yet. So I really want to see how deeply integrated it is with the game, and we'll kind of go from there. But I'm optimistic. It works really well in Future Fight, so I'm guessing that it'll work really well in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 as well. My only fear is that they're going to use that as a grinding mechanism to keep you playing. The last thing that seems inspired by Future Fight is when playing in co-op, your ultimate team-up moves have a short window where other players can activate their ultimate abilities, and that seems very much inspired by the multiplayer aspect of Future Fight, where when you're going up against the world boss, you use your ultimate ability, or you can tap on like a shield call out, and other people can tap on it as well. And only if all four of you tap on it does the ability go off. So this seems like it's kind of lifted from Future Fight, which, again, I want to be clear, is not a bad thing. Future Fight is actually one of the better mobile games out there in terms of the gameplay loops. It's actually super satisfying. The multiplayer is fun. The character roster is huge. There's actually a couple of characters that were created specifically for Future Fight. And a lot of those characters are actually really cool. Sharon Rogers as Captain America. Luna Snow is an original character. I want to say Crescent is another one. There's a alternate version of Iron Man that got Mjolnir. Yeah, so there's some really, really cool characters there. I think there's a version of Scarlet Witch that has X-23's powers. There's some really, really cool crossovers there. I would love to see something like that happen in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 as well. If they start doing some DLC, I'd love to see some original characters, or I'd love to see them bring some characters over from Future Fight. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I think bringing over mechanics that work and getting rid of mechanics that don't is a good thing. It remains to be seen whether these mechanics actually work in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but yeah, I'm all for it. So that is my take on some of the reveals that have been done by Game Informer for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I am hyped about this game. I hope you are too. This is a really, really big deal that it's being released on the Switch. So unless something crazy happens and they reveal something that I really, really hate about the game, this is going to be a day one buy for me, and I'm going to be playing the heck out of this thing. I've been waiting a long time for another Ultimate Alliance game, especially in the wake of Marvel Heroes going under and getting canceled a little while ago. But what about you? What did you think? Are you excited for Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3? Are you going to be buying it day one? Let me know down in the comments, and let me know what you'd like to see. We've seen a lot of information, but there's also a lot of stuff that we haven't seen. We don't know too much about the story. We still have some characters to be revealed, I'm guessing. What would you want to see? What would really convince you to go out and buy this game day one? Let me know down in the comments. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you'd like to see more great videos like this, hit that subscribe button, tag that notify button so you know when great videos like this go live, and I will see you next time.